Welcome to this explainer. Taking a patient's case is a real art. Today, we're taking Dr. Hahnemann's theoretical instructions from the Organon of Medicine and translating them into a highly practical, step-by-step masterclass on patient case-taking. If you've ever wondered how to truly capture a patient's suffering in a way that leads to genuine healing, you are in exactly the right place. By the end of this, you're going to have a crystal-clear roadmap for your own clinical practice.
Right off the bat, we have this guiding principle, our North Star, really. Fidelity in tracing the picture of the disease. As a physician, your ultimate goal, your absolute highest priority, is to capture the exact original picture of your patient's suffering. And you have to do this using nothing but your sound senses. That means relying entirely on your vision to observe, your hearing to listen, and even your sense of smell. You're basically a detective of human health, and absolute faithfulness to the patient's actual lived experience is your fundamental duty.
So, here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll start with aphorism 84 on the silent observer, move to 85 on the case record, and 86 on the active investigator. After that, we'll define the complete symptom and finally look at finding the simillimum. Let's get right into it.
All right, part 1. Aphorism 84, the silent observer.
Okay, picture this. A patient has just walked into your clinic and sits down. The dynamic in that room should be a really sharp contrast. The patient, they're totally leading the narrative. They're telling you about their usual character, their symptoms, and their pain, strictly in their own words. But your role as the physician, you're just absorbing it all. You are maintaining total silence. Watching how they sit, listening to their tone. Essentially, you're restraining yourself from jumping in.
Which brings us to an absolutely crucial rule. Never, and I mean literally never, break the patient's train of thought. Why? Well, because the second you interrupt, you completely ruin the spontaneous originality of what they're telling you. Imagine they're trying to explain a highly specific sensation, right? If you jump in with a leading question, you might inadvertently put words right into their mouth. You distort the authentic picture of the disease the second you interrupt.
Now, there is exactly one practical exception to this rule. You can interrupt if and only if the patient wanders completely off track. If they start discussing totally irrelevant topics that have absolutely zero to do with their health, like if they go on a wild tangent about a random daily event that totally derails the medical timeline, in that case, sure, gently guide them back. But otherwise, your silence is golden.
Moving right along to section 2, aphorism 85, all about the case record.
So it's not just about listening, right? It's about how you actually document the data while you're sitting there silently. Hahnemann gives us some incredibly specific note-taking rules here. First, before they even start talking, you instruct the patient to speak slowly. You need the physical time to write down their exact words. Second, you begin a fresh line for every single new symptom. And third, you write those symptoms down one below the other. Getting the patient to speak slowly lets you follow these exact spatial rules to keep your record perfectly organized right from the start.
But here's the real secret sauce behind that formatting. Always leave a blank space after a symptom. Actually, let me emphasize that. It is absolutely essential to leave that physical space on the page. Why? Because later in the visit, you're going to need that room to add highly specific details to those exact symptoms. If you cram all your notes together, you literally won't have the space to build out the complete symptom picture.
Okay, section 3, aphorism 86, the active investigator.
All right, so the quiet phase is officially over. The patient and their attendants have finished their spontaneous narration. Now, your role abruptly shifts. You look back at your neatly organized record, and you look at those blank spaces you strategically left. Now it's time to ask highly targeted questions to fill in the missing data. You're hunting for the exact location, like what specific parts or tissues are affected. You need the sensation. What is the exact character of the pain? Is it aching, burning, or maybe cutting? And finally, the modality. What makes it better or worse? Is it worse in the morning? You're systematically filling in all those blanks.
Next up, section 4, defining the complete symptom.
To truly finish this picture, we have to look at a very specific concept Dr. Hahnemann highlights, concomitant symptoms. Basically, beyond location, sensation, and modality, you have to actively hunt for symptoms that are happening right alongside the chief complaint. But, well, they don't have any obvious pathophysiological relationship to it. These are the strange, rare, or just peculiar issues happening at the exact same time as the main disease, even though, logically, they just don't seem connected at all.
Let me give you a quick example. Imagine a patient comes in with a chief complaint of severe diarrhea, but during your investigation, you discover they mysteriously develop a running nose, or coryza, at the exact same time the diarrhea flares up. Medically speaking, you wouldn't standardly link those two things together, right? But for this specific patient, they happen together. That running nose is a massive concomitant clue. It's highly individual to this patient's unique expression of the disease.
And that brings us to our final section, finding the simillimum.
So what's the point of all this? Why are we so strict about this methodology during every single visit? Well, going through this exhaustive 3-act process, the silent observation, the meticulous note spacing, the targeted inquiry, it's the only reliable way to hit our ultimate goal. By completing this detailed inquiry, you can accurately form the true totality of symptoms. And that totality? It reveals the authentic picture of the disease. Having that true picture is literally the one and only thing that guarantees you can select the perfect, most effective remedy, what we call the perfect simillimum.
So, as you get ready to step into the clinic and do this fieldwork yourself, I want you to really think about this. Do you have the discipline to master this art? What if the vital clue to curing your very next patient is hidden in the very silence you fail to observe? Mastering this whole process isn't just about taking good notes. It's about genuinely honoring the true picture of the disease. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you next time.